Welcome to the Copperfield Electric Podcast.
Glad to be here.
So imagine you buy this perfect vintage home, right? It's got real character, beautiful molding, only to find out that just, turning on your vacuum cleaner and your microwave at the exact same time, that could literally melt the wires hidden inside your walls.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it sounds like an absolute horror story, but for a lot of homeowners, the reality of what's, hiding right behind their drywall is genuinely concerning.
Totally.
Electrical wiring is it's an invisible infrastructure.
Yeah.
You don't see it, you don't interact with it directly, so you don't even really think about it until something goes catastrophically wrong.
Exactly. And to make sure nothing goes wrong for you, the listener, we are embarking on a deep dive today. We really want to look at the true costs and, honestly, the incredibly hidden complexities of a full house electrical rewiring.
It is a massive topic.
It is. And we have a really solid stack of sources to guide us today. First, we're looking at a highly detailed pricing guide written by Renee Hernandez. This was published on June 3, 2026, and it's titled Cost Breakdown, Full House Electrical Rewiring.
Yeah, that guide is excellent because it gives us the raw, unbiased data and market analysis.
Yeah.
But we're also pairing it with something much more practical.
Right, the on-the-ground stuff.
Exactly. The official service and operational materials from Copperfield Electric. They are a premier 24-hour electrician operating right out of Orange County, California.
I really love that combination because you get the high-level financial data and then you get the reality from a company that is, actually pulling the wires and dealing with city permits every single day.
Yeah, it grounds the numbers in reality.
Definitely. And our mission for you today is simple, really. We want to prepare you for the sticker shock. Because let's be totally honest, when a homeowner gets an estimate for a full rewire for the very first time, their jaw usually hits the floor.
Oh, absolutely.
It's not just some minor repair. But by the end of our conversation today, we're going to make those numbers make perfect sense. You will know exactly what is happening inside your walls.
Okay, let's unpack this. Where do we even begin with the pricing? Give us the bottom line first.
Right. Well, I always prefer to just, rip the bandage off early. If you are looking at a full home rewire in Orange County, or really just the broader Southern California area, the total project cost is going to fall somewhere between $8,000 and $30,000.
Whoa. Wait, 8 to 30 grand.
Yep.
That is exactly. If we narrow it down to where the vast majority of standard homeowners actually land, you are usually looking at a sweet spot between $12,000 and $18,000. It really all comes down to the square footage, first and foremost.
Well, let's actually talk about those size tiers because Hernandez's guide lays this out in a way that really helps clarify the math.
It does.
Like if you are in a home that is under 1,000 square feet, the estimate sits tightly between $6,000 and $10,000. But even for a house that small, the sources say the process takes 3 to 5 days.
That is correct. Yeah, it's not a quick weekend job.
Yeah.
And as you scale up, say, to the 1,000 to 1,500 square foot range, the cost shifts to $8,000 to $15,000.
And the timeline goes up too, right?
Yep, you're looking at a 5 to 7 day timeline for that size.
Wow. Okay, and then for a classic suburban family home, like the 1,500 to 2,500 square foot range, that jumps up to $12,000 to $22,000. Taking a crew, 7 to 10 days?
Exactly. And finally, if you have a larger property, anything over 2,500 square feet, you are starting at a base of $20,000 and can easily push past $30,000.
And that's stretching into a 10 to 14-day project, right?
Right. And what's fascinating here is how consistent the underlying math actually is when you strip away the edge cases.
How so?
Well, if you just look at the averages across those tiers, it essentially breaks down to about $6 to $10 per square foot for a full rewire in this specific market.
Oh, that's a really handy metric just for anyone listening to do some quick, back-the-napkin math for their own living space.
Yeah, exactly.
I am kind of stuck on these timelines, though. 1,000 square foot house taking up to 5 full days, or a larger house taking 2 full weeks.
It sounds like a lot.
It does. I feel like I could probably paint an entire house inside and out in less time than that. I think a lot of people would wonder why it takes a crew of professionals so incredibly long just to, run some wires.
Well, it's because you have to think about the physical geometry of what they're actually doing. Painting is just surface level. Rewiring a finished house is a completely different beast. You are trying to route flexible wires through closed spaces.
Right. I always think of it like performing open heart surgery without leaving a scar.
Oh, that is a perfect way to describe it.
Because you can't just take a sledgehammer, rip down all the drywall, throw the wire in, and call it a day. The homeowner still needs their walls intact when you leave, so it requires a surgical level of precision.
Precisely. Just imagine having to fish a flexible wire through a tiny strategic hole cut in the drywall. The electrician basically has to navigate that wire blindly down a dark wall cavity that is probably stuffed with thick fiberglass insulation.
Ugh, yeah, that sounds awful.
It is. And they have to somehow drill through horizontal wooden fire blocks inside the wall that they can't even see, all while completely avoiding hidden plumbing pipes and ductwork.
Right, you definitely don't want to drill into a water pipe.
Exactly. And they are often doing this from a 120-degree attic or some cramped crawl space. It is an agonizingly slow game of blind operation. It's incredibly tedious, highly skilled labor.
Yeah, that paints a very different picture than just, clipping wires together. And understanding that level of skilled labor really helps explain why the geography matters so much here.
It really does.
Because if a listener goes online and just searches for the average cost to rewire a house, the national data paints a much cheaper picture.
Oh, completely.
Nationally, the average is around $10,000, or about $1.50 to $3 per linear foot, with labor rates sitting at $50 to $100 per hour. But in Orange County, labor jumps to $85 to $130 per hour.
Yeah, it's a big leap.
That is a massive premium. So is it just the standard, California's expensive tax, or is there more to it?
Well, the cost of living certainly plays a role in the hourly rate, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But the real drivers of that premium are stringent building codes, environmental realities, and honestly, municipal bureaucracy.
Let's talk about those codes.
Right. First, California's electrical codes are historically much stricter than in many other parts of the country.
Stricter how? Like, what are we required to do that someone in Ohio might not have to worry about?
One major thing is the requirement for dedicated circuits.
Okay.
A dedicated circuit is a wire that goes directly from your breaker panel to a single appliance, like your microwave or your refrigerator. And literally nothing else is allowed to share that power.
Oh, I see.
California requires far more of these to prevent overloads. They also mandate rigorous safety mechanisms like specialized fault interrupters in almost every single room, not just near water sources like bathrooms and kitchens.
Right. And all of that means more wire, more breakers, and more labor.
Exactly.
That makes a lot of sense. And then there is the environmental reality, specifically the wildfire risk in Southern California.
Yes. The risk of fire is just a daily reality down there.
Right.
Because of this, specialized fire-rated materials are often heavily recommended, if not outright required by local jurisdictions, depending on exactly where the home is situated, of course.
And I'm guessing those specialized materials simply cost more to manufacture and procure.
You guessed it.
And we can't forget the bureaucracy. The sources specifically point out that in cities like Irvine, Anaheim, and Tustin, the permit fees alone for a full house rewire can reach anywhere from $500 to $1,000.
Yeah, the fees add up quickly.
Honestly, paying for permits always feels like a scam to me. It feels like throwing money into a governmental black hole just for the privilege of fixing your own house.
I get that. It absolutely feels like a burden, but it is fundamentally about accountability and safety. Think of the permit as the ultimate insurance policy on the work itself.
Okay, I guess I can see that. Because if you skip the permit to save $1,000 and, God forbid, there is an electrical fire 5 years down the road.
Yep, your insurance will care.
Exactly. Your homeowner's insurance could completely deny your claim because the work was unpermitted. Plus, paying for that permit guarantees that an independent official city inspector is going to come out and verify the electrician's work. It keeps everyone honest.
Exactly. It validates that the massive investment you just made was actually done safely. So we've established those baseline averages, and we know why California carries a premium.
Right.
But averages don't give a homeowner a specific quote. To understand how an electrician arrives at a firm number for your unique home, we really have to look at the specific variables that drive the cost up or down.
Let's break those down. Labor is obviously the biggest chunk.
Huge chunk.
The sources note that labor accounts for 60 to 70% of the total project cost. And the general benchmark is that it takes about 1 hour of labor per 100 square feet for a standard two-person team.
Right.
But clearly the layout of the house can totally blow that benchmark up.
Completely. If you have a modern single-story home with an open floor plan and a huge accessible attic, I mean, that is an electrician's dream.
They just get in and get out.
Yeah, it's fast, and they can pull long, straight runs of wire easily.
Hmm.
But the moment you introduce a two-story home or a finished basement, complex angled roof lines, or tight, inaccessible crawl spaces,
The clock starts ticking.
the clock starts ticking much faster. Every time an electrician has to squeeze into a tight space and carefully route wire around a corner they can't even see, your labor costs are creeping up.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because the age of the house plays just as big a role as the layout. A home's birth year essentially dictates its electrical DNA.
That's a great way to put it.
Like, if you have a vintage home built before the 1940s, you likely have something called knob and tube wiring hidden in your walls.
Yeah.
I've seen pictures of this stuff, and it looks like it belongs in a museum, not a functioning house.
It really does. Knob and tube wiring is exactly what it sounds like.
Yeah.
They use these white ceramic knobs screwed into the wood framing to hold the wire, and ceramic tubes that the wire passed through when it had to cross through a floor joist.
Sounds incredibly old school.
It is. And there are two massive problems with it. First, it doesn't have a ground wire, which is a fundamental safety feature in modern electricity.
Right.
Second, the insulation wrapped around the actual conductive wire is usually made of cloth or rubber. Over 80 or 90 years, that cloth dries out, becomes incredibly brittle, and literally crumbles to dust, leaving bare, live wires inside your walls.
Oh my gosh, that is terrifying. And removing it isn't just a matter of tugging it out of the wall, is it? Because it's secured by those ceramic knobs, it takes a lot of effort to safely extract.
Exactly. You can't just pull it out.
The sources state that removing knob and tube requires special permits in most California cities and can add an extra $2,000 to $5,000 to the total project cost.
Yeah, it's a big line item.
But it's not just the pre-1940s homes that have issues. Let's jump forward a few decades. If your home was built between 1965 and 1972, you might be dealing with aluminum wiring instead of the standard copper. Why did they ever use aluminum?
Honestly, economics. Yeah, during that specific window in the late 60s and early 70s, the price of copper skyrocketed. So builders shifted to aluminum to save money. The problem is simple physics. Aluminum has a much higher coefficient of thermal expansion than copper.
Meaning it expands and contracts differently when it gets hot and cold.
Exactly. When electricity flows through a wire, it generates heat. The aluminum wire expands when it's hot and shrinks when it cools. Over years of use, that constant expansion and contraction actually loosens the physical connections at the outlets, the switches, and the breaker panel.
And loose wires are bad news.
Terrible news. When a connection gets loose, air gets in, and the electricity can arc or jump across the gap. That arcing creates massive heat and is a huge fire hazard.
Oh, wow.
So to meet current safety standards, all that old aluminum has to be physically stripped out and replaced with modern copper.
I'm curious, though, what if my house is a bit newer? Say it was built in the late 1980s or the 90s, and it already has modern copper wiring. But maybe I'm doing a renovation. Does the entire system still need to be ripped out just because I'm updating things?
Not necessarily. And that is a crucial piece of good news for homeowners.
Oh, good.
Yeah, if you have modern copper wiring that is still in good condition, a thorough inspection might reveal that many of your existing circuits are perfectly fine and don't need replacing at all. That can significantly narrow the scope of the project.
That makes a lot of sense.
You might only need a partial rewire for a new kitchen, or perhaps just an upgrade to your main electrical panel.
Let's talk about that electrical panel, actually, because that's another massive piece of the pricing puzzle. The panel is basically the heart of the whole system.
It is.
If you just want to upgrade an outdated panel on its own, it typically runs between $2,500 and $4,500. A big part of that is running new home run wires, right?
Yeah.
What exactly is a home run wire?
So a home run wire is the main continuous line of wire that goes directly from an outlet or a room all the way back to the main breaker box, with absolutely no stops or splices in between. Running those lines is very labor intensive.
But the pro tip from the sources here is the power of bundling.
Oh, yeah.
If you know you need a rewire and your panel is old, bundle the panel upgrade with the Fill House rewire. Doing them together usually saves you $500 to $1,500 overall.
It makes total economic sense. The electrician is already on site, the main power from the utility company is already disconnected, and they're already routing dozens of new home run wires back to the panel location anyway.
So you're just killing two birds with one stone.
Exactly. Doing the panel at the exact same time eliminates a huge amount of redundant labor.
And there's one more hidden cost we have to talk about: drywall patching.
Ah, yes. The dreaded batching.
Because of that open heart surgery we discussed.
Right. When you lay it all out, the high cost of labor, the complexity of a home's layout, the historical era of the existing wiring, the panel upgrades, and the drywall patching, you can clearly see why two houses that are both exactly 1,500 square feet sitting right next door to each other might receive quotes that are thousands of dollars apart.
Absolutely. The details matter so much. Okay, so we've mapped out the financial landscape. We know why it costs what it costs, and we know what factors drive the price up. But knowing the cost doesn't tell you if you actually need the service.
Very true.
How do you know your house is trying to tell you something is fundamentally wrong with its invisible infrastructure? Let's talk about the warning signs.
Well, the symptoms are usually there long before a catastrophic failure happens.
Mm-hmm.
You might notice your living room lights flickering or dimming noticeably when the refrigerator kicks on, or maybe when you turn on a hairdryer.
Right, that classic dimming effect.
Yeah. Or you might go to unplug a lamp and notice that the plastic outlet cover itself feels unusually warm to the touch.
Or frequently tripping breakers. I think a lot of people just sigh, walk out to the garage, and flip the breaker back on without even thinking about
They
it.
do.
It's a bad habit. But if you reset a breaker and it trips again an hour later, that breaker is doing its job. It is actively protecting you from an overloaded or shorting circuit. You can't just keep flipping it back on and ignoring the root cause.
That's a great point. The breaker is a safety net. It's not a convenience switch. And then you have visual cues. Take a close look at your outlets. Do you see discolored or slightly charred plastic around the slots? That's a clear sign of heat damage.
But what is the ultimate red flag? Like the sign that means you need to stop what you were doing and call a professional immediately.
The absolute biggest red flag is a burning smell near an outlet, a switch, or the main electrical panel, especially if it smells like ozone or melting plastic and you can't identify an obvious source like a toaster.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, why is that burning smell such a critical drop everything emergency?
Because that specific smell means the insulation wrapping the wires inside your walls, the plastic or rubber coating meant to keep the electricity contained, is physically melting or failing due to excessive, uncontrolled heat.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the copper wires are getting too hot, and that intense heat is transferring directly to the surrounding wood studs or the paper backing of your drywall. Failing insulation inside wall cavities is one of the leading causes of residential electrical fires.
That is terrifying.
If you smell melting plastic near an outlet, do not wait. That is an active emergency.
That is very sobering.
Yeah.
But sometimes realizing you need a rewire isn't just about warning signs or failing degraded infrastructure. Sometimes it's simply driven by how we live our lives today.
Exactly.
Think about all the modern upgrades people are installing. Level 2 EV chargers, electric heat pumps, whole home solar panels.
Right.
Trying to add those massive power draws to a home built before 1975 without a thorough wiring inspection is a huge risk.
It really is. It represents a fundamental mismatch between what your house was built to handle and what you are demanding from it right now.
It's exactly like trying to run a high-speed bullet train on 100-year-old wooden tracks.
Yes.
The infrastructure just cannot handle the modern load. An electric vehicle charger isn't like plugging in a blender. A blender runs for 30 seconds. An EV charger draws a massive, continuous current for 8 to 10 hours straight.
It's a huge strain.
Right.
Yeah.
If you push that much sustained power through degraded 50-year-old wiring, the system is going to overheat and basically bake the insulation right off the wire.
That analogy is spot on. A licensed professional needs to assess whether your current tracks can handle that bullet train safely, or if a full or partial rewire needs to happen first just to build the necessary foundation.
Which naturally leads us to the final piece of the puzzle. If you are experiencing those warning signs, or if you are planning to buy an electric vehicle and you know your house is 50 years old, what do?
You call a pro.
Exactly. Who do you call, and what actually happens when the crew arrives at your door?
Well, the sources highlight a very specific professional blueprint for this, using Copperfield Electric as the prime example of how this process should be handled correctly in the Southern California market.
Let's introduce them properly because they really are the standard we're looking at today. Copperfield Electric is a family-owned, licensed, bonded, and insured 24-hour electrician service.
Right.
They serve the broader Southern California region, specifically focusing on Orange County. Their service area is huge, stretching from the coast down in Newport Beach and Laguna Beach, moving inland through Costa Mesa, Santa Ana, Irvine, and Mission Viejo, all the way up to Tustin, Huntington Beach, Orange, and Fullerton.
They cover a lot of ground.
They do. They handle both residential and commercial work, but for a full house rewire, they follow a very strict four-step process. Walk us through how a professional operation handles this.
Sure. It starts with step one, the on-site inspection. And this is non-negotiable. If you reach out to them, you can actually email them at copperfieldltrc@gmail.com. They send an expert out to your house.
Makes sense.
They evaluate the main panel, they count the individual circuits, and they physically look inside the walls and attic to see if you have that old knob and tube or the dangerous aluminum wiring. From this detailed visit, they generate a free, itemized quote.
That's crucial.
It is. A major red flag in this industry is any contractor who tries to give you a firm, guaranteed number over the phone without ever stepping foot in your house. It is fundamentally impossible to be accurate without seeing the layout.
I would never trust a blind quote for something this expensive. Okay, then comes step two, pulling the permits. We spent a lot of time talking about why permits matter, but the beauty here is that Copperfield handles all the interaction with the local building department.
Exactly. They take that off your plate.
They pull the permits so everything is perfectly legal and above board. Again, never let a contractor talk you into skipping this step just to save a few bucks.
Never. And then step three is the actual installation. This is the surgical part we discussed. A highly professional crew will go out of their way to minimize the damage to your drywall.
Right.
They will painstakingly route the new wires through the attic, dropping them down through the walls, or routing them through basement crawl spaces, using existing access points whenever possible to keep your home looking intact.
And finally, step four, final inspection and closeout. Once Copperfield finishes the wiring, the official city inspector comes out. They verify the work meets all those strict California codes we talked about.
Only after it passes that independent inspection do they handle the wall patching and finalize the project.
That's reassuring.
Very. They also hand over all the official permit documentation for your permanent records, which is absolute gold when you go to sell the house.
For sure.
This raises an important question for you, the listener. How do you ensure you're hiring the right partner for a job this massive, whether you're in Orange County or anywhere else?
Yeah, what should people look for?
The sources stress that you must verify the electrician has a C10 license, which is the specific official classification for electrical contractors in California. You should take the time to verify that license number directly at the California Contractors State License Board or the CSLB website.
Just do your homework.
Exactly. You also want a company that offers honest troubleshooting. A great electrician will tell you if a problem doesn't exist, saving you money, rather than upselling you on a full $20,000 rewire if you really only need a simple panel upgrade. And always, always demand an itemized quote so you see the exact breakdown of their labor, the materials, and the permit fees.
So what does this all mean? Let's bring everything we've talked about together. Rewiring your home is not a small weekend DIY project.
Definitely not.
It is a major 5 to 14-day investment that is going to range anywhere from $8,000 to $30,000, heavily dependent on the age and the physical layout of your specific house. But when you look at the real risks of ignoring degrading wires, especially if you have a home from the 70s with aluminum wiring or older ball, it's not really an optional cosmetic upgrade. It's an absolute necessity.
It's about safety.
Yes. And by partnering with a reliable, verified company like Copperfield Electric, who offers a 100% satisfaction guarantee and 247 support, you aren't just paying for spools of copper wire. You are making a fundamental investment in the safety and the long-term future-proofing of your home.
I'd like to leave you with one final thought to mull over as we wrap up today.
Sure.
Think about the sheer number of devices we plug into our homes today compared to just 20 years ago. It is exponential. As our homes rapidly transform into these personalized high-demand power grids for our electric cars, our advanced climate control systems, and our smart technology, the wires hidden behind our drywall are no longer just delivering simple electricity to a light bulb.
Right.
They are the critical arteries of our modern lifestyle. The question you really have to ask yourself is your home's nervous system genuinely ready for the demands of the next decade?
Wow. That is a very powerful question to end on. Because you definitely don't want to be running that high-speed bullet train on old, splintering wooden tracks. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into your home's invisible infrastructure. Take a few minutes today to look at your electrical panel, check your most used outlets for warmth, and if you smell burning plastic, you know exactly who to call. Stay safe out there.